Hi everyone, my name is Jenny and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I thought that I could sit down and just very casually talk to you about some new and anticipated releases in books, and then as bonus content, at the end of this video, I will also be talking about some released games that I'm really excited about for this year. I do apologize if I sound nasally. I am dealing with some terrible allergies. It's been very, very windy where I live, so the allergies have just been really kicking my ass recently. So with that, do grab a drink and let's chat about some books. I'm first going to talk about some books that just recently released. I think within the last week, these books have come out, so I wanted to highlight them as well. The first book I have on my list is A League of Her Own by Liz Tomford. This is a more mature romance where it's not exactly aligned with the Windy City series, but it is following a side character in one of the books. Our main character, Miller, her father is the coach of the baseball team, and so this is his romance with the team owner. So the team owner is the daughter of the prior owner, and she's inheriting the team, and there's a lot of strife between the two of them, and obviously a budding romance. I'm really excited to see what Liz Tomford does with a more mature couple. And one of my friends, Carrie, is actually reading this right now, and she's having a lot of fun, so I'm very much looking forward to it. The next book that I have is The Red Winter by Cameron Sullivan. This book was put on my radar by my friend Hanan, and the way she spoke about it really, really intrigued me. And she's been on this campaign to have a lot of our other friends also read this book as well. So I'm very excited to get my hands on this book. I'm just waiting for my copy from Aardvark to come in. But this one is like a pre-revolutionary France where this beast is very well known in this area because it came into the village at the time and decimated a bunch of people, and our main character is part of this hunting party who is kind of out to get the beast. But 2 decades later, after those initial events, he has to reconnect with his ex-lover to go back on the hunt for this beast because it has cropped back up in the area. It is a queer retelling of the Beast of Gustin Dan? I did not write in my notes what the area of France was called, but it is a queer retelling, and it reminds me so much of Kill the Beast by Sarah Swift that I really enjoyed. It has like that beast monster hunting kind of vibe, and they're looking for vengeance because the beast obviously took some people that they love, and there's a lot of strife and angst, I think, just given the synopsis of it all. So I'm really, really excited to read this book. And then the next book that's already released is Weaving Shaw by Heba Al-Wasti. This book is a gothic romance, and I believe it is the start of a trilogy. But basically our main character, her brother ends up dying, and she has to kind of go to this manor for some reason, and she has to go with this man who's kind of angsty, and they gotta go investigate this manor, and the things that she uncovers in the manor potentially could help in the death of her brother or the dying of her brother. I can't remember from the synopsis if the brother is dead just yet, but I did see that Kayla from Books and Lala had read this book and she really enjoyed it. And I think she was talking about how the romance was very slow burn for the book, and I'm somebody who loves slow burn, so I'm really looking forward to it. And these days, I really do enjoy the gothic vibe, especially with romance, and so I'm very much looking forward to this one. Okay, so the next books that I'm going to be talking about are ones that are coming out soon. I did my best to align them with pub date, so let's hope that my QCing job was well done. But the first book that I have is I Love You Don't Die by Jade Song. This is coming out March 17th of this year, and Jade Song is someone that I really enjoyed when I read Chlorine. That's like one of my favorite horror books of all time. But this one is interesting because I believe it leans more literary in tone. In like the synopsis, they comped Sally Rooney and Otesha Moshfegh, and I know the two of them have a more kind of literary style. I think Otesha does a little bit kind of horror-leaning stuff. I've not read from either of those authors, but it talks about this being more of a literary debut for Jade Song, and it follows a young woman who is trying to find her footing in life. She is working in her dream job, which is selling urns for, like, dead people, and she has this obsession with death. So it is her dream job to be working this upstart company to make custom urns for people's passed on loved ones. And she is trying to find kind of some joy in life because she just feels like every day is the same and everything is monotonous. And she ends up going on this dating app and getting entwined with a throuple, or being asked to be in a throuple with this couple. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to lean horror because, again, the synopsis made it sound very literary. And I'm a little concerned about it, but I am going to be reading it since I did receive an ARC. I'm not somebody who really reads lit fic that often because it doesn't really catch my vibe, so we'll see how it goes, but very interested to see. And hopefully the writing really works for me on this one. I had sampled the first chapter of the book and it felt very melancholic, so given how I'm feeling recently, we'll see how that goes for me. And the next book that I have is Aicha by Soraya Bawazawi. I hope I said the last name correct. And this one comes out March 24th. This one is a Moroccan fantasy where we're following our main character, who is the daughter of a Moroccan freedom fighter. And she is fighting this waging war against the oppressors. And as she is fighting this war, she's also struggling with kind of keeping in this very dark, sinister, monster-like creature that is lying within her. And so this is a deep, dark fantasy following female rage. And I'm very interested, as I myself have not read any sort of Moroccan fantasy from my knowledge, and I believe this is a retelling as well. I'm not familiar with Moroccan mythology at all, so I'm very interested to see how this goes. I also am not someone who enjoys retellings per se, but I think it'll work for me better because I don't think our literary landscape is oversaturated with Moroccan storytelling, so I'm very interested to see and hopefully get to learn about a culture I do not know that much about. And then the last book for March I have is This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me by Ilona Andrews. I learned that this pen name, Ilona Andrews, is actually a writing duo. I don't know if they're like together, but like they write together. I don't know if they have a relationship or anything, but I learned that they're a duo, so that's very interesting. And I think Ilona Andrews is really well known for an urban fantasy series that I have not read myself. But the reason why this book is interesting to me is because it has the isekai style. Isekai is like a portal fantasy, and I usually consume quite a bit of isekai in anime, so I'm very interested to see what this one is about. Our main character, she ends up waking up in the pages of her favorite dark fantasy novel, and the thing is that novel is not completed yet, or the series is not completed yet. So she is within this world that she loves, but like obviously it being a dark fantasy series, a lot of crazy shit happens, and I think she comes into the book when there is like a war going on, and so some of her favorite characters she's meeting in the streets of the city, and she's like, oh my god, I love this character, and then she finds out that she actually is immortal. I don't know if like she ends up dying and she restarts. Often a lot of animes do that where the person will die in the story and then we get kicked back to the start. I'm not sure if Ilona Andrews is going to be doing that with her main character. But instead of her trying to kind of escape this fantasy world, she gets embroiled with like the politics of everything, and then she falls in love with the prince, but maybe the prince of the other country might want to fall in love with her too. So it seems fun and a little messy, and I hope that this one is something that really works for me. I don't often read urban fantasy, so that's why I haven't picked up Ilona Andrews, but very excited to see what this is all about and see what their writing style is, because I don't think I often read from writing duos, so I'm not sure if, do they carry like 50% of the writing weight? I'm not entirely sure, but you know, we'll see, and hopefully this one is fun. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a bigger series, because I know Ilona Andrews does have more hefty series in their backlist, but hopefully this one isn't too intense. And then in the month of April, we have Unbound by Peyton Corinne. This is part of, is it called Unloved? I don't know what the entire series is called, but the first book is Unsteady, second book is Unloved, and then this one is Unbound, and we're following our main characters, Paloma and Bennett, and they have been side characters in the Connected series so far, but they always have like some weird, mysterious thing going on. Like, they clearly like have some sort of relationship that our main characters in the other two books aren't privy to, and so in this book we are exploring that dynamic where they actually were each other's first love, but then something ends up breaking them up, and for some reason or another they end up coming back into each other's orbit and exploring that relationship that they had. And so I'm very interested to see more of Paloma's character, because to be frank, she seems kind of bitchy, or like she's written in a way that makes her seem bitchy, but I'm like, I know like she's not a bitch, we just don't know her, but like from the perspective of the characters that we've been reading, she doesn't seem like the most warm and welcoming person, but our main character in Unsteady also had that kind of vibe to her, so I'm really interested to see how Peyton writes out her character and also explores the themes of trauma that she usually brings in with the story. I think oftentimes heavier romance is like an iffy thing for me, but from Peyton Corinne's writing, I think she does an incredible job with tackling the mental struggles that both the characters have, but also adds in a lot of nice romantic moments that feel very authentic to the characters, but also brings a lot of levity to the story. So very excited for that one. I also am unsure why the hell the cover style completely changed. I'll put Unsteady and Unloved on this side of the screen for you. Like, what's the reason behind the complete 180 cover change? Not sure. Not sure if they're going to end up being like, surprise, we're redoing book 1 and book 2, because that would be really annoying. But, and then the next book that we have that's coming out, the Unbound, that one is coming out April 7th. I'm not sure if I said that yet. But our next book is The Killing Spell by Shay Kawi. This is coming out April 14th, and this is like a Hawaiian fantasy. I don't know if it's supposed to lean more urban, but this one we follow a 25-year-old. She's the youngest of 5 Hawaiian clan leaders living in a homestead in outer Los Angeles. So she ends up moving to a homestead with her clan there, and then there happens to be a murder of one of the fellow activists in the area, and she ends up being implicated with that murder, so she kind of has to go out and investigate this, as, you know, she wants to clear her name and make sure that she secures the safety of her clan as well. And they suspect her because the activist was killed by a killing spell. And in this story, or in this fantasy world, magic is more like poetic and literary from what I've read, and so I'm very interested. I don't think I've read that, or actually any at all. I don't think I've read any Hawaiian fantasy, so I'm very interested to see how this one goes. And I don't believe this one is a series. It might be, but it does kind of give me a bit of Red City vibes. I don't know if it's because it's kind of based in Los Angeles and Red City has a Los Angeles base as well, but very excited to see. And I wonder if it leans more fantastical or more urban fantasy, kind of like Jade City vibes, but we'll see. Very excited for that one. And then on the same day, we have Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker. This one is a horror book told in dual timelines. We have one of our main characters. The timeline is October 2026, and then the second timeline is October 1877. So our main character in 2026, he killed his roommate. He's not sure why. He can't remember why. And so we're following that investigation. And then in 1877, we're following our other main character, who is an exiled samurai, and he's out in hiding. And the tagline that really got me was, one of these people is a ghost, and one of these stories is a lie. And I'm like, this is so interesting. I've read Bat Eater by Kylie Lee Baker, and that is a very linear story. I'm just really interested to see how Kylie Lee Baker weaves in these two timelines, because obviously they're not that close in like time where they could be like, surprise, like I'm pretending to be this person, but I'm like super grown now. And also, as a side note, Kylie Lee Baker also announced that a new novel was picked up, and this is coming out in 2027, so I don't know too much about it, but the book is called Hell to Pay. And I think from the little graphic that Kylie posted, I'll try to put a picture on screen for you as well. They said something about intestine-eating demons. Not sure what that's about, but we'll find out soon enough. The next book that I have for April is The Caretaker by Marcus Kluwer. This is coming out April 21st, and basically the premise is that a young woman gets a job on Craigslist to be like an in-home caretaker, and she gets to the house and some crazy shit happens. I don't want to know much more than that, because with what is the book? We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kluwer, I went in really knowing nothing besides a lot of comparison between it and House of Leaves, and that it was like a weird, creepy house story, and the atmosphere just really knocked it out of the park for me. It was one of my favorite reads because of the fact that it felt so haunting and so gripping at the time that I read it. I don't know if this technically is it within the same world as We Used to Live Here. I've heard whisperings that it is, so very interested to see. I hope I get scared shitless. Just as much as I was scared with We Used to Live Here, I hope The Caretaker has that same fantastic atmosphere. And then the last book in April, and I will be reading early because I got an e-arc on NetGalley, is Mocha by Monica Kim. This one I am so excited about because The Eyes Are the Best Part is also one of my top horrors of all time. Such a fantastic story about female rage, and this one as well follows the same sort of female rage pattern, but this one I believe is taking place in South Korea. Mocha is a kind of colloquial word for spy cam in Korea, and it has been a big topic of discussion that I have seen in kind of an international space, where unfortunately young women, or just women in general, are targeted by these little spy cameras that are put in public areas. So oftentimes they're put in bathrooms or dressing rooms, and so they are catching video of women in pretty private situations, and that imagery gets shared like on the dark web kind of thing. And so our main character, she unfortunately is caught on spy cam with her partner in an intimate position, and that video goes out to public, and her partner is a very wealthy young man. He is an heir to a multi-million-dollar company, and because he has that kind of money and background, he flees the country, and she is left in South Korea to deal with the aftermath of this very private moment becoming public. And our main character is struggling with, obviously the very public pressure of not only dating somebody that is that more high profile, but also being a woman in just a society where there isn't really justice that is served for the type of invasion of privacy and that sort of assault that she is dealing with. And as we follow the story, she uncovers the truth behind that spy camera incident, and we kind of just descend into her really feeding into her female rage. and I'm so excited for this one. I know quite a few of my friends who also got the e-art, and I do have some art drafted for this one, so I'm very excited, and I just know I have a lot of faith in Monica Kim that she's going to knock this out of the park. I'm just so excited to really get into the depths of this story, and I know it's going to be one that really hits home for me. And then in May, I have 2 books. Yeah, in May we have 2 books. One is A Dark and Wild Wood by Sarah Nicole Lemon. I will be very honest, this book is on this list because of the cover. I think the art is completely stunning. I love the dark color and the contrast between the character and the lighting of it all. Very beautiful. I think in this book, all I know really is that I don't know if it's her adopted mother, her mother figure actually was tried for being a witch, and so her and her sister are kind of living on their own, and she ends up running into death, and death has taken it upon himself to teach her to tap into her magic and really get in touch with her roots, with her skills in that way. And it's a sort of gothic tale, and I think potentially there's a romance between our main character and death. So we'll see how that goes. And then the next book, this one is a cover ad, but also the tagline that I saw on Instagram really pulled me in. And it's called The Rain Shadow Orphans by Naomi Ishiguro. This comes out May 26th. And the tagline really was for fans of Studio Ghibli. And I really love Studio Ghibli films. I just love the whimsy of it all, and I love the more slice of life, but the thread of learning kind of the smaller lessons in this very long journey with the character. And I think the imagery of Studio Ghibli's work is just so astounding, and I don't think I've ever watched anything quite like a Studio Ghibli film. And so when this series pitched itself as Studio Ghibli vibes, I was like, well, of course it has to be on my list. Do I really know what this is about? No, not at all. And I did see on Goodreads, as I was like glancing through, that they said it had like fun vibes of like the Pokemon anime. So I'm assuming that they have animal companions. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, as it gets closer to release, I will get more information about people's thoughts and opinions on it. But cover is stunning, and Studio Ghibli vibes, the cover is giving Studio Ghibli vibes. And then for the month of July, I only have 1 book, and this is from an author that I've read and I've loved, and that is Shirlene Iwobi. And she is coming out with a paranormal romance called Die For Me. So we are following a cardiologist. She's the only Black woman in her field, and she does not really believe in love. She sees a lot of her white male colleagues divorce their wives, and they end up dating women much younger than them. And so she's like, ugh, men, I don't want to deal with men. And then she ends up meeting this younger man named Julian. He's 11 years younger than her. And so she's like, no, I can't be like my colleagues. I can't do this. But then she ends up getting to know him more, and she's just so intrigued by him. But as she starts hanging out with him more, she notices that she's dealing with some memory loss and also some extreme fatigue. And so she's like, what the hell's wrong with this Julian guy? Given the cover, I think I know what's wrong with Julian. I do think I know, and I think you know from context clues what's wrong with Julian, but I'm so excited, and I can't wait to see, because the Between Friends and Lovers is a very current, contemporary kind of romance, and while there is the complexity of our main character being not only a doctor but also a social media influencer, there's nothing that leans fantasy paranormal in that one. So I'm very interested to see how Shirlene pulls that into a more contemporary paranormal. We'll see how that goes, but I just know from the cover that this is going to be great. Like the vibes in general, such a stunning cover. I really enjoy it. And then in August, we have one book as well, and this is A Trade of Blood by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is book 3 in the Anna and Din mystery series, the first book being The Tainted Cup. I really enjoyed book 2, which is called A Drop of Corruption. That was a 5-star read for me last year, and it made my top 5 of the year. The mystery in this one, I believe they're tasked to see, because each of the mysteries are insular to the book, they kind of have slight threads to it, but me talking about it isn't going to ruin the series at all for you. But this mystery, one of the sons of a wealthy family is implicated in a murder, and absolutely every thread of evidence they have is pointing to him. And so Anna and Din are called to the city to investigate, and they are at the brink of a civil war in this area because I guess the murder that he is implicated in is somebody in another rich family was murdered. And so Anna has to come kind of clean up the mess and figure out, like, are you actually the murderer or is somebody setting you up? So I'm very interested in seeing, yes, one with the mystery, but also I'm very intrigued to see how Robert Jackson Bennett builds out our characters Anne and Din. I feel like in book 2 we learned so much more about Anne as a woman. She is such, or Anna as a woman. She has such a mysterious background, and given that she's a much more private person, but her and Din have been more vulnerable with one another within the last book. So I'm very intrigued to see what mysteries we uncover about Anna. And, I also hope and cross my fingers that Robert Jackson Bennett allows Din to have some joy and some love in his life, because our favorite little himbo needs it. And our first book for the month of September is by Tananarive Due. I plan to read her book soon. I think I'm going to do like a whole horror vlog on her. But the book that she announced 2 days ago is called Maisie Wood, and we're following a filmmaker who goes to his grandmother's cabin, and he is faced with the legacy of her rage. And I think Tananarive Due had written on Instagram that this follows a character she wrote about in a short story. I think she had a short story collection, and he was like much, much younger in one of those short stories. And so she's writing him, I think, a couple decades later, where he has like a family and everything. This seems more of a haunted kind of female rage story, and I'm really interested to see. I will be reading her for the first time relatively soon, so I know a lot of her stories seems to be very insular in that they follow a lot of close-knit family dynamics. And then that one comes out September 22nd. On the very same day, Adeline Grace, who is the author of Belladonna, is coming out with her adult debut called The Wretched Divine. The tagline that really got me, or the comp from the author that really got me, was that she said, perfect for fans of the Mortal Instruments, or the Infernal Devices. That's the one with the Clockwork Angel. And I just know that Clockwork Angel is everybody's like favorite love triangle series, but that's YA, and I am planning to reread that series relatively soon. So I'm very interested to see how that dynamic comes together in this one. We follow a knight, and she was raised a knight in order to help save her kingdom, and in order to do that, she will have to kill like somebody or something of notoriety, and that will bond her to this angel that will help turn the tides of her kingdom during this war. And something comes up where the people that she loves and the people in her town are turning into demons, which is what she's fighting. And so push comes to shove, she ends up making a pact with a demon. So not only is she tied to an angel, but she's tied to a demon. And then the three of them have to kind of figure some shit out, because the demon issue is becoming even more intense than it was at the very beginning of the novel. I do like the very gothic-y vibes of Belladonna. I don't think that this one is supposed to be gothic leaning, but who knows when more information comes out with Wretched Divine. But I'm very interested to see how Adeline Grace tackles adult fantasy. I feel like there are elements in Belladonna where I think she could have really pushed it there, and so I'm very interested to see how that develops and is able to be freed. And then at the end of the month of September, on the 29th, we have The Thief and the Traitor Bride by V.L. Bavellino. This is the author for The Second Death of Locke, which I really enjoyed. I thought was really great, very angsty. I do wish that there were certain plot points that were kind of dragged out a smidgen, but you know, it is a standalone, interconnected fantasy series. So in this one, we are following a different couple, but it's in the same world. And this one, we are following a spy on a deadly mission. And I think the spy perhaps is the bride in the title. So we'll see how that goes. I am very intrigued to see how the dynamic goes. This one is such a different one, as The Second Death of Locke is more so friends to lovers, and this one seems to be more enemies to lovers vibes. So I'm very excited for this one. And then the reason why I made this video in general, I wasn't going to make this video at all. But at the beginning of this week, my friend Jonathan sent me a message, and I opened that message, not thinking much of it, right? And in that message, in October, what's the date? October 13th, Stephen Graham Jones announced that he is writing book 2 in The Only Good Indians. It's a follow-up book from The Only Good Indians. The Only Good Indians was my #1 book of 2025. Stephen Graham Jones has subsequently become one of my favorite horror authors of all time within the past year. And he is coming out with a follow-up book to The Only Good Indians, which is my favorite book from him. Oh, I hope this is amazing. I'm not going to say too much about this one because it is a follow-up of it. We are following a character from The Only Good Indians. I won't say who we're following, but we are following somebody from The Only Good Indians, and that's about all that I know. I am so excited to see what goes down in this book, and I don't know what elements of book 1 will bleed into book 2, but you know, I didn't think that this book was going to be a series, and well, I am not one to be like, oh, this should have a follow-up. I'm also a really big fan of Stephen Graham Jones, so I will read whatever he writes, and if this is what he wanted to write, sure, what the hell, who am I to say? I haven't said the title of the book because I've just been yapping like crazy. The book is called Off the Reservation by Stephen Graham Jones, coming out October 13th, follow-up to The Only Good Indians, and I am just so excited. So excited. Oh, I can't wait for that book to come out. Stephen Graham Jones, if you're watching this, which I don't think you are, please give me a copy of this book. Please and thank you. Oh, and I think, it'll just be amazing. Anyway, obviously very excited for that one. And then the last book that I have for October is Mossblood by Lynn D. Jung. This one is a fantasy that's based in France, and our main character is going to this very renowned alchemy academy, and she ends up finding out the death. I don't know if it's of a fellow colleague or if it's one of the staff members at the academy, but she ends up having to investigate this death, and she ends up investigating with this knight who I think there's probably going to be a romance with, but she ends up having to investigate that, and they find out that potentially the death of this person is connected with this darker past that she is trying to keep buried. I believe this is also a debut. I don't know if it's a standalone. I think it is, but it also might be a series. Because with fantasy, a lot of the times they do end up being series. So we'll see how that one goes. Very, very, very excited. And the last book I have is coming out November 1st, and it is called Till Quest Do Us Part by Evelise Hausman. This book is also a cover ad. I follow the artist who posted the announcement of the cover, and the art on this really feels like Fits in the Fool coded if you know the dynamic between them, especially in like Tawny Man. Like, this is giving them in Tawny Man. So when I saw the art cover, at first I thought she was doing Fits in the Fool art, and then like the video put like the title cover and it said Till Quest Do Us Part. This one follows a woman and her knight. And basically, when they were younger, they had to fight some sorceress. So they ended up bonding via oath to like kind of help protect the two of them. And, you know, they did what they needed to do in that fight. And 10 years later, she needs to be marrying a prince from a neighboring kingdom to kind of connect themselves politically. But it turns out that that oath that she did with her best friend like a decade ago actually means that they're married. And so she's like, we got to get a divorce, babes. Like, we're not married. This isn't a romantic thing. And the oath that they did it with this goddess watching over them. And that goddess is like, girl, no. You promised that the two of you would be together. And you can't just break this oath all simply. So she is not letting them separate, but she has to separate for political reasons. And I think they're going to end up being like, actually, we do love each other. This artist, if you don't follow them, please do follow them. They are somebody that I have followed for a while. And yeah, I was so shocked when I saw this cover. I was like, oh, is that really not Fits in the Fool? It's not, but I will read their story. But that is all for the books that I have for 2026. There could be more that comes out, obviously. We're like at the very beginning of the year. And also Sabaa Tahir wrote or like posted something that something is coming out this week, or news of something is coming out this week. And my educated guess is that Sabaa Tahir is going to announce the finale of the Air duology. And I'm crossing my fingers that it comes out fall of this year. So that is it for the books. We are going to games now. I have been in such a gaming mood, and specifically I've been loving watching streams. My friend Steph from Fall Into Stuff does gaming streams on her Twitch channel, and I think currently we are watching her play Final Fantasy. I can't remember what number of Final Fantasy, but I just enjoy watching her play games. We've been watching her stream Baldur's Gate, Dispatch, and Night in the Woods was the other one. And then I somehow fell into the rabbit hole of watching Resident Evil Requiem. My friend Michelle told me to watch Gab Smulders, I believe is the last name. I finished watching Gab play Requiem, and I think I'm going to go back and watch the other Resident Evil playthroughs that Gab has played. I have just been so enthralled with gaming, and so we are going to talk about games that I personally want to play and ones that I think I could stomach playing. I think watching other people play turn-based games is my favorite, because that's not something I enjoy personally with my gameplay. And watching other people play horror is so much better for me, because I don't watch horror, period. And so even attempting to play Resident Evil, I would never get past like the start screen, if I'm being honest. But the first game is one that's already out, and that is Pokopia. This is like a Animal Crossing kind of Minecrafty builder of Pokemon, and you play as this little cursed Ditto. And Ditto like wakes up and is like, oh, I want to look like my trainer because I miss my trainer. And you get to prance around this area as Ditto, and you get to help build habitats for Pokemon, and you get to kind of form connections with them. You get to obviously learn the skills that each Pokemon has, and that helps you kind of build out this area. My brother so graciously bought the family a Switch 2, and by the family, I mean my father got the Switch 2 because he is an avid Animal Crossing player, so he can play his big island and it not glitch on the Switch 2 anymore. But, you know, because he bought it for the family, I also get to borrow it. And my brother's partner so graciously bought my father Pokopia for his birthday, which was last week. And by extension, I get to play Pokopia. So I did start the kind of trial section, and it is such a fun game. It is so cute. It is so precious. It is so wholesome. The music of it all is so beautiful, and I am kind of pressed to be like, go out and buy a Switch 2 to play the game because it is just so beautifully done. It's so expansive. It's a much bigger game than I expected to, but also I know that not only is the game console quite expensive, but the game in and of itself is also expensive. So, you know, I would highly recommend potentially saving up for one and then also watching game streamers play it, because a lot of the times you're like, oh, the idea of the game looks fun, but you need to watch gameplay to see if that's something that you even kind of jive with. But yeah, I very graciously did not have to pay for the Switch 2 system that my family has, so I'm very grateful to my brother and his partner for that kind, generous donation to us. But yeah, I highly recommend it. Obviously, if you have a Switch 2 system, this is a game that I think you would get many, many hours with. I think it has the longevity of Animal Crossing because it's so customizable. And if you are somebody that likes the more menial task and the more cutesy decoration things, Pokopia is that game, and it is everything and more than I anticipated. And then keeping on with Switch 2, I don't know if I'll purchase the game myself, but we'll see. It's Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. This comes out spring of 2026. I just love the Yoshi line games within the Mario universe. I think the creative team for Yoshi always does something so fun and so creative, and this one has such a cute artistic direction. It's so whimsical. It's so like texturally alive as well. If you look at Yoshi, the texture on his like little dino fur thing going on is so cute, and it just looks so fun and adorable. And Yoshi usually has so much whimsy, and the gameplay is so much fun, and it's so replayable because there are so many elements within the world of Yoshi to like look at and appreciate. And in an artistic direction level, I think they do such fun and really out of the norm of like the Mario branding. Yoshi just really pushes that fantastical and whimsical view and vision. And then in summer of 2026, we have Grave Seasons. This one is kind of like a farming sim. It has that pixel art style as well, but you come into the city or this town city kind of area, and you are like a farmer. You're kind of setting up your town, you're getting to know the townspeople, and pretty early on in the game, you find one of the villagers dead. And you are now tasked to find out which one of the villagers is the murderer. But unfortunately, as you're trying to uncover more information, there are more villagers in your town who are being killed. And so you have to figure out who that is until, like, I don't know if you end up being killed if you don't figure out the person. And I think you potentially will get killed if you point fingers at the wrong person. But the fun thing about this game is that when you complete your game, if you start a new save file, the serial killer will be somebody different. So it will never be the same person every single time. And I don't know if like the story changes a lot. Obviously, this game isn't out, but I'm so excited for it. It is such a different vibe to any sort of farming sim we've ever had. And the fact that it has that replayability is something that I'm very, very intrigued with. And then also summer of 2026, a completely different vibe. This game called Widow is a 3D puzzle platformer, and basically the game, you have these 3D puzzles and you have these little wooden figurines in like your little drop down menu, and you're just finding the places within your puzzle that these wooden things exist into. And it just seems like such a fantastic game to wind down with, and I think the art is so stunning. This comes out on Switch and Switch 2. I'm going to be playing it on my Switch because I have my own personal device, and I'm really interested to see how the graphics look like on the Switch. I'm not someone who's like a huge like graphics snob. I've been playing my Breath of the Wild on my normal Switch still, and it's something that I enjoy, and I'm not like, oh my gosh, this is so terrible, the frame rates. Like, it doesn't matter that much as long as I'm having fun. But I would like to see the difference, and I hope that there's a demo that comes out so that I can play it and see if it's something that I do want to end up purchasing. And then autumn of 2026, we have this game called Fable. Oh my goodness, when I saw the launch video that the dev team did, it's like a 10-minute video. You should go watch it and see the creative direction behind this. It's sort of like, it feels kind of Baldur's Gate-y, but a little bit more life sim-y, where you are the hero you are the main character, and you, I guess, inherit this town, and you have to protect it. So there is some fighting, but it's more like hand-to-hand combat fighting and not turn-based, which, again, as I said, as I've said before, I don't really enjoy turn-based fighting. This one is very like, let me come out swinging with my sword. I enjoy that sort of gameplay much, much more. And then also you are developing your town and developing relations with other people, and the choices that you make turns you into more of a hero in certain people's eyes and more of a villain in other people's eyes, and it just seems like such a beautiful and expensive game. I do hope that it is compatible on my Steam Deck. I know that it is available on, I think, PlayStation 5 and then also on PC, and they did say Steam. So hopefully that means Steam Deck, because, you know, Baldur's Gate 3 runs on my Steam Deck. So I'm hoping my Steam Deck can also run Fable, because this just seems so much more my vibe. And I love that not only can you fight and have like this very adventure forward gameplay, but there's also that kind of life sim, that more chill aspect to it. And I really enjoy that. And just visually, it looks like such a stunning game. Last game that I have is Witchbook. The dev team did say 2026, but I don't think they gave a specific season, so I just have it kind of popped in at the end. And it is one where you play as a witch. It is a pixel art style, and you go to like a witch academy, and there's like a lot of life sim elements and things like that. It looks so fun, and I really do like the kind of pixel life sim-y vibe of it all. And yeah, it just looks like something that is so up my alley, and I am very looking forward to having more information on the game. But I have been speaking for almost an hour now, and hopefully I can edit this video down so that, you know, you're not listening to me yap for that long, but you know how it goes. I am just a chronic yapper on this channel. But I hope you enjoyed. If there are any things that you are looking forward to in 2026, release-wise, that I did not talk about in this video, please let me know. If there's anything that I put on your radar, also let me know. I'd be very interested. And hopefully all of these things that I have spoken about are hits and new favorites for me, and I hope you also find some really new and fun and fresh favorites for the year of 2026. If you made it this far and don't have anything else to say, let's put like flower emojis in the comments. Any kind of flower would be cute, just like having a whole field of flowers in the comments. And thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!